It's a
Okay,
game
so now we are getting on to YouTube and we're here for the Tune You show. It's starting to record us here. And I'm so thankful that you were up for this adventure, Melissa, to come talk about this series I've been doing. And I think this will be the last conversation in this series, facing fear, just something I personally wanted to explore, but also just hoping that could be helpful to other people. So thank you so much for being here, Melissa.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and you're coming to us from somewhere in Florida, true?
Cape
Tell us
Coral,
where you're
Florida.
at. Okay.
I am in Cape Coral, Florida, and we are recovering from a Category 5 hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where right away it's so powerful to talk to someone like you who's just been through something like that versus, I mean, in addition to other things you've moved through in your life, but yeah, I mean, facing fear and something like that it's like seemingly like deserves to be feared, right? So I appreciate that you're ready to talk about this. But I mean, yeah, I mean, even just that is, what do you feel like what's coming through you, even just response to having gone through that, and how that's like had anything to do with your relationship with fear, like before the hurricane and after, even? There's like,
so I've always been one to fear the hurricanes because I've been through so many of them at this point.
Yes.
And this one just was, I had said 5 years ago after Hurricane Irma that I was never doing another hurricane, that I would leave. I didn't leave for Hurricane Irma because my mother wasn't able to evacuate or to leave. Like she wouldn't physically be able to do a car ride or things like that.
Yeah.
So stayed with her. And after that, I was like, I'm done. I'm never doing another one. Then now here comes Ian. And notice they all start with I, the letter I, which is a little weird. But we kind of talked, my husband and I talked about it back and forth. Should we leave? Should we not leave? All of our neighbors were like, oh, it doesn't flood here. You don't have to worry about it. And we kind of were thinking about it. But when that second alert came over the cell phone, because it does that emergency alert that you've been ordered to evacuate, because we are in evacuation zone A.
Yeah.
We literally at the same time we're leaving. So we just packed up whatever we could, grabbed the dog, and went to my sister's house.
Okay, which was a safe zone for sure.
Yes, but it still hit there too. It just was a Category 1 instead of a Category 5, but it hit there as well. Where I live in particular, it was the flood water. I mean, the winds are always damaging, but the flood waters were up to 18 or 20 feet, they were saying. So the flood water was a huge concern.
So much to fear too. And I think that is interesting that you did do it differently. Like you knew you were going to do it differently, and you did. You gave yourself that gift of actually leaving. And wow. And I just think, yeah, that's interesting how a lot of things in our lives we do face again and again, right? Something that this like hurricane has been like a theme in your life, just being someone. And hurricane is such an interesting like analogy for so many things in life, right? Just like anticipating the hurricanes of life and even like moving through it. Oh my gosh. And I think of you as someone who comes from a lot of like faith and spirituality.
Yes.
And so, I mean, how much do you feel like that has played a role, or did that even like deepen that for you?
So we'll go back. It's both hurricanes, really, Irma and after Hurricane Irma, it deepened my faith even more.
Oh wow.
Which was amazing. Like and I can't really, sometimes I have a hard time explaining it, because it just was like after it was done and we were kind of spared, if you will, and everything was okay, it just makes you think like, wow, this is fleeting, this time here. It's just that quick. You close your eyes and you close your eyes and you're 20, then you're 60, then you're gone, right? So it just really deepened it after that. And then some of the other traumas I went through, especially with caring for my mother and losing her, that deepened my faith even more. And as I was trying to be those hands and feet for her in her final chapter, it deepened my faith more. And that was an incredible plus that I really didn't see coming. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it definitely did. And I knew in the last 3 months of that cycle too, that I was going to be okay. Like no matter what, I knew that God and the universe had my back and I was going to be fine. Not without pain. I mean, it's not promised without a little bit of pain, right? But I knew that I would be fine.
Wow, I love that you're bringing that up. It's such a beautiful truth that facing the things that we fear and going through the very things that we've feared actually can be the very thing that can deepen our faith and our valuing of life. And I love that, like, because I think about how I first got to know you a bit was our getting to do some yoga therapy together, right?
Mhm.
And I
Yes.
remember that getting to have these sessions with you and talking to you about like the exercises we were giving you and hearing from you about how you're approaching life and just how you think, that I would leave these sessions so like inspired and just like, gosh, this woman's just got this amazing attitude and just this faith I could feel. And so it's so cool. I didn't know that, what had gotten you there, but it's so neat that you even can look back and say it, like it's the scary things you've faced and gone through. And then even the level of like facing your mom's, like going through that with your mom, like her facing her fear of death. It sounds like you're saying going through that with her actually only strengthened you and your value of life and your, um, yeah, faith, right? And knowing. So that's it's just such like a nice reminder that, to like,
So
oh,
I'd like to share really in that moment,
please.
just about the faith part. So the last, let's say, couple of weeks, there was a bit of a countdown and COVID lockdowns with that. So it was tough because we were doing iPad visits at that point stuff, but she had gone pretty much a week without saying anything. Like she just was being completely nonverbal at that point. So it was hard to have a one-sided iPad conversation, as you can imagine. But I just said, so we had our routine of doing our prayers. As we would say goodbye, we would do our prayers together. So I was like, well, do you want to talk a little bit more? Is there anything else you want? And she said, and it was tough for her to get it out, but she said, pray more.
Mm.
And I just was like, oh, pray more. Even in that, like there was nothing more that she could say, but just give me more, help me with that connection. That's how I took it
Ooh.
anyways, is
Uh-huh.
help me with this
Uh-huh.
connection,
Yes.
help me be okay in
Mm.
that.
Ah,
And it was an honor.
ah.
It truly was.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear from you if you're willing to share, like, because I know you and we've also vibed up in being like in spiritual study groups together, right? And I know
Yes.
that you like some of the same authors I do. And so what do you mean by pray these days? Like what does that look like when what you would call your versions of prayer? If like how does that look
I
from
gotta
the
tell you,
outside?
I go old school. I go old school. I wake up every day and just, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all my many blessings. And it just goes on from there. I do old school with that for
Yeah,
sure.
so you're like talking to yourself in your head, or do you say it out loud, or sometimes a little bit
Usually
of both?
a little bit of both. Usually I'm talking in my head. It's when I wake up before I get out of bed.
Mm.
I kind of do that. I will say if I do any long trips or like if I know I'm gonna be in the car for a long time, I have a couple crosses on the wall. I'll go over there, put my hand on the wall or on the cross and have a deeper prayer with that.
Ooh, using that symbolism. Yeah, I love to realize how, like a symbol, like how some faiths like Christianity and others have used the cross and what that can mean and invoke, right? Like to get back to the ritual of that. And I love that you've created your own ritual
Yes.
with your feelings about that. And did you, and again, I thank you for being open to talking about this, but I just think it's so
Sure.
neat to hear about, because I feel like we all, maybe the new consciousness could be that we do all have our own truth, right? And sense of spirituality. Some of us don't have any sense of spirituality and don't want to, right? Which I
Right.
totally can honor. But I just love to hear about, like where people are coming from. Are you someone who was raised in like traditional religion? Is that somehow that started for you? Or do
Yes.
you mind sharing some of that journey? And what kind of sects would you say you have resonated with or been influenced by, if that's a way to describe it?
So I was raised Catholic by my
Okay.
mother,
Ah,
and we went to church every Sunday. And when I got to, truthfully, when I got to be about, I want to say I was about 14 years old, I just really started having trouble reconciling with some of what I was being taught at church.
yes. Yeah.
And, as a teenager, you just want to sleep in on Sundays. You don't want to get up and get dressed to go
Uh-huh.
to church. So I kept saying I didn't want to go to church. And it was when I somehow, I guess, faced to the fear of speaking to my mother truthfully and just saying, I don't agree with what they're saying. And I don't
Uh-huh.
remember the particular sermon or
Yeah.
the ideology that was at that particular day, but I did say, he said this, I think that this makes no sense to me. And she said at that moment, she realized I wasn't just trying to sleep in on Sundays, that I was struggling. And she said,
Mm,
you don't have to go anymore.
mm. So she gave you that freedom to still like keep exploring your own sense of connection,
She
which is really
did, and
helpful, right?
many people in our church had a big problem with that, but
Ah,
she believed in me and letting me walk that path. So I had that
wow.
basis of faith, and the faith never left me.
Ooh, yeah.
Just some of the teachings, I guess, did a little bit, but
Right. Well, and it even sounds like that's coming from a sense of of faith that's like beyond what they were teaching you. Like you had this sense and this feeling that felt stronger than what they were saying,
yeah.
which is like pretty awesome. Wow. Yeah. And then did you find yourself gravitating to other traditional religious settings? Do you still like to go to a church as part of your practices? Or
So so I didn't for a long time, and after my divorce from my first husband, a lot of people kept saying, "Oh, you should go to church. You can meet people there." And I'm like, "Well, how
yeah. Uh-huh.
hypocritical is that? Just to go to church to meet people? Like, I'm not ready to go to church. Like,
Mm,
if you meet people, I'm okay with it being a byproduct of that. But I feel like to walk in, you've got to be committed to walking in for why you're,
yeah.
for having that relationship." So I did get down enough on my knees in that time of recovering from the divorce that I did go to a non-denominational church in
Yeah.
Broward County, Florida, and it helped me a great deal. It helped me deepen my relationship with God. It helped me
Mm,
reach out to people, make friends again, accept me for, it helped me to begin to accept me for myself, um, forgive myself, forgive other people. Like, it really started
mm.
a very important journey that I needed in my life.
That's so
And
cool to hear, to think and remember that that's what religion could be about or for, to help you do things like forgive yourself and others in your life, which really is like the message of people like Jesus, right? But I
yeah,
think it just it's not always being practiced because it's a
yeah,
hard one. It
it's
really
definitely
is.
hard. Oh, it's definitely hard.
Yeah, I think the forgiving ourselves may be even harder. Like I could see that's something I probably struggle with, is forgiving myself for various things, even more than forgiving others. But that's such a part of it too. So, hmm.
I
So
think
yeah,
so.
go
I
on.
think I think that self-forgiveness is the most important piece of it, or
Wow.
that was at least for me. Like, just
Yeah.
forgiving all this, dumb mistakes, big mistakes, horrible mistakes. I mean, we all make them, right? So just letting those go, and you know, I'm human. I made the mistake. We all recover from it. So the same
Yeah.
forgiveness I would give other people, we have to show to ourselves.
Mm. And do you feel like that's part of your? And then yeah, I guess I'd love to hear about what you feel like You said you've definitely got like a dailiness, and even just throughout the day that you're in your mind or with your words consciously connecting and doing like what you would call prayer. And I love how this ties into the whole fear conversation, because this is so the opposite, right? And it really is. And has come up in some of the other conversations for sure. That right, what is the opposite that we might lean into is faith, and how to deepen that, and um, let that be where we're coming from, right? Even in facing things that feel fearful. So and then even just with the use of mind, right? Because you and I being aware of the power of the mind, and I know that you're getting into doing things like coaching people, and so I'm
Mhm.
sure that's part of what you're working with. And to be aware that when, like, for instance, when we're praying, that's a great use of mind, right? Because we could be doing the opposite, right? We could be worrying, ruminating, thinking about what we don't want, right? Doing all the things that we might do in our mind that are actually not that helpful. And
Exactly.
so that's where it's fun to think that doing something that we could call prayer is some of the most powerful use of mind, right? And
Mhm.
attention and focus, especially if we're into that. Just
Yeah.
not only just for the law of attraction aspects, right? And just knowing that what we put our attention and all that, but just, and then also for the spiritual possibilities, right? Of feeling more connected and the magic of that. So, um, but I was going to ask, do you feel like forgiveness is something that you're consciously aiming to practice with yourself, like daily, or is that something that more just like looking back, you can see that's been a piece and you don't necessarily have to keep trying to re-forgive yourself? Like, do you feel like you're
Yeah, I
now
don't
rooted in a sense of?
I don't think that I have to. I think that I've finally gotten to a place where I don't have to continue to forgive myself. Certainly if I slip up, or know, whatever, like, I'm on a health journey as well, as you know. So sometimes when I eat badly, I have to
Right.
forgive myself for my slip up. I can't be so hard on myself. So that's really the big thing with
Ah,
that. but I don't, a lot of the forgiveness that I had to do was, just past mistakes and past, accepting apologies I'm never going to hear, and wishing people well,
Ooh,
forgiving, moving on. So that was a bigger part of that to get me to this point today, just kind of clearing all the junk out of my head. I feel to be here now, just happy and peaceful.
but that really gives such a solution, because sometimes I feel like, how do we clear out the junk of our head, or even how do we forgive ourselves? So I love that you just gave some tangible ways that we can do that, kind of in a blanket way, looking back at our past situations, people, and even deciding to wish them well or really change, the energy of that. But also how you share how it simply can also be throughout the day, just in how we're going to decide to respond to something, to just like slipping up with whatever it is that we think we're working on, right? That's a super important moment, to not dwell in this opposite thing, but instead to easily forgive ourselves, right? And be able to move forward. And then it comes back to making sense with someone like you, maybe, who's had reasons to remember to value life. Is kind of like, when we're valuing life, we remember, like, why would we let's like take things more lightly, right? I don't need to like beat myself up over these things, right? It just like helps us see the why in doing it differently and better, and changing our experience. And I also feel like I'd love to ask if you're willing to share on, because I feel like I love the love story of you and your new hubby, right? And you guys just seem like such a beautiful partnership, just in knowing you like I just can feel that, and it like inspires me. And do you guys share a sense of spirituality? Do you talk about that stuff? Is he into that? Is he totally not into that? I mean, because all the things can be a part of it, if whatever he's comfortable with, he's sharing too.
So we were joking about this last night. He's kind of jogging behind me, but he's catching up. He's definitely getting more into it.
Right. But he's got his own journey, right? And he's not exactly like you. Because I think that too can be inspiring to people. Like, if they want to grow the spirituality in their life, but yet they have a partner who doesn't at all, can you still be? I think yes, right? Because again, we all have our own truth. And so I think it's nice to feel like you don't have to be exactly the same on things like that. And maybe we're never gonna, right? Because we're all so unique. So, but I'm sure it's fun to.
And he's definitely into it, though. He's definitely like, he was incredibly negative for a time while we were dating, and it was really tough to kind of, was like, you kind of a life-sucking force here, hon. Love you, but,
right. So, you've had that chance to like grow together and probably influenced each other in ways. But that's great that there seems like there's a sense of like freedom for you each to have your own journey. But yet I'm sure you have such a mastermind between the two of you, right? The whole idea of like when two or more of us come together, and the power of that. So it seems like, you guys have a great mastermind going.
We definitely have a very much of a team attitude. Like, we feel like we can do anything if we're together, doing it together, and trying, moving forward together, that we can tackle anything.
Yeah, right. And that just is exciting when you can feel that from a couple, that there's like this team momentum that seems harmonious. So I feel like you guys are exuding that, and it was nice to just see that as like, studying success, the whole idea of like getting to see what's working and be inspired by that. So I love that. I feel like you guys are that.
We had a long road. We dated for more than 20 years. So it was a long road to get to the last, I guess we're about 7 now, but at about year 15, it got serious.
I love that too, though. The openness of like every love story is unique. And sometimes you might know someone and even love them in some ways for 20 years before you're going to get to these other levels. So,
And one of the things that I said in our wedding vows was that he and I both needed to grow to this point to be the husband and wife that we both needed and deserved. I still believe that to this day. I certainly could not have been the wife that I am today. I couldn't have been this lady 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And I love that, though. It's so sweet that you were in each other's lives, but you were like getting ready for each other. And it didn't mean that it wasn't meant to be at all. It just meant it wasn't time yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
uh, I love that. Well, and I love to consider with, I know that you're really launching into offering yourself as a coach with people. And I'm imagining, like, even just some of the power of what I can imagine that you'll be bringing with things like what we're talking about here, like bringing this real value of life and a real influence to be forgiving with ourselves and to let it be a lot about faith. I mean, do you feel like those are principles that you will be feeding into your clients as part of your work
Those are
with them?
some of
Like,
those are some of them, but I definitely like to, a bigger focus for me really is empowering women,
yeah.
because for so many years, and just helping them find their worth within themselves and how to love themselves.
Mm,
For so many years, I was that person who just, the glass was half empty, and I wouldn't have wanted to be around me. I don't blame anyone else for never wanting to be around me at that point. It was really tough, but it's very easy to go down those spirals where we don't think we're good enough, and we're not pretty enough, or we're not this enough or that enough. And I face those challenges, and I'm here now standing, walked away from corporate America, very decent corporate job, to step out on my own to do this. And it really is my passion to help other people achieve whatever their goals may be. Like, if you're content with corporate America, then I think that's great, but it can always be improved upon, especially with establishing some work-life boundaries, because companies do like to say they offer work-life boundaries, but sometimes it's just a tagline. It's not necessarily the action that goes along with it.
mm,
So that's kind of what, I want to help people who are feeling burnt out. I want them to feel alive and inspired again, and just happy and peaceful and full of life.
ooh. And
That's really my
I
goal.
think that's such a specific need that is needed. And I feel like for myself as well, like what you said about helping women to learn to realize their worth and love themselves more and forgive themselves more. And I feel like you are such a perfect person to share that, because I feel like you really do seem like you found that within yourself. Like, I'm still like looking to find that more and more. And it's like, yeah, it's tricky. How do we actually find that and feel that? Because we've all been talking about it a lot, right? And we know we should, but it's kind of like, wow, how do you actually? And then probably our culture is giving us the opposite messages in a lot of ways. So we need to be aware of that. So I'm so thankful. And I think that is so needed. And exactly. And really, you are such a perfect instrument to bring that through, again, because you do honestly exude that me having gotten to know you like I have, that you seem like you have found a way to love yourself, to forgive yourself, and to let yourself. And again, I mean, be judging more than you like, but just it seems like you have like a peace with yourself that you're allowing, that is what many of us are seeking and need right now, especially women, right? For
Mhm.
various reasons, we've taken on those messages a lot. I don't
It
know if it's
sounds,
more than men, but a lot, you know.
I feel like it's a little more than men, but it sounds cliche when I say it, but it's really the absolute truth. Like, there's nothing there's no better feeling than just being authentically yourself, and not necessarily caring what other people think. Like, I used to walk in a room and feel like I would be judged, and because I'm heavy, and that was just me projecting my stuff onto everyone else. And a perfect example is the book launch, where we officially met in person back in 2019.
Yeah.
Um, and I was so excited to be there. And as soon as I got there, that whole, I hate to say, that little fat kid from high school was like, "You don't deserve to be here. You're not as smart as all these other authors.
Mm.
You certainly don't look like, I feel like California's got a certain look. Like, you certainly don't look like California."
Uh,
I was afraid to go approach anyone.
yeah.
And it was Joe, who, he was my boyfriend at the time, my husband now. He kind of gave me a pep talk. He goes, "You can do anything you put your mind to. Why are you afraid? You're just as
Mm,
good. You're better than those people." And I was
mm,
like, "I am. Yeah,
mm.
I'm no different." Yeah, it just kind of, I mean, being completely transparent, I was still a little nervous. I still felt
Yeah.
like I was out of my league a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I wish Melissa right now could go back to that moment and be like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" Like, I still was a little more guarded than I would be today.
Yeah.
But that was those important things. And I say that because now, about facing your fears. That was facing a
Right.
huge fear.
Yeah. And what it asked you to develop in yourself. And that it does bring up the truth that when we do something that feels scary, we hear that it's not always going to be comfortable. And there may even be hard moments like that. Even you and I totally go through that too, where you get in there and you could turn it into a nightmare for yourself, right? Because of the self-talk and the self-judgment and the I'm
Yes.
not worthy, basically, thing going on. And it can put such a dark cloud on it all. But yeah, having that moment to decide, I'm going to face that and shift that. And then that sounds like did shift you moving forward. So that's like the great reason to do it versus not doing it, right? Because some people
Oh,
would be like, I
absolutely.
can't even face those feelings that I might feel when I walk in that room. And so I'm just not going to do it. And I'm sure there's, things in my life that I haven't been doing for those very reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that reminder of the why, how it changes us and strengthens us and like our relationship with ourselves and then our faith too, if we like that.
Absolutely.
Ah, yeah. Well, and I'm sure you'll be rocking the house at future events like that. So
That's my hope.
you'll have more opportunities. Do you still feel books coming through? Do you like to do things on paper?
Yes.
Or do you? Okay, great, yeah. And then you seem like you'd be great with making videos and such. Is that part of your plan to do some of that along the way with this
Yes.
new chapter? Great.
So I do, I post some little tidbits on Instagram, 3 things to say to yourself every day. I do them in my
Okay.
reels.
Yes.
I'm going to shortly move them over. I just discovered YouTube Shorts, so
Okay. Yes. Great.
I'm a little out of it in that respect, but
Me too. Yeah. But and so you have a YouTube channel?
there's nothing on it, but I do.
Okay. Great. But that's where you're going to start to put things.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to
It
start.
sounds
And it
like.
matches my Instagram, which is at
Okay.
Melissa Torrey.
Okay.
So I am going to start doing, just stepping more. I'm going to be stepping more into that.
Well,
Because I
great. I'm so
definitely have
glad.
a message that people can get value from and it can help them.
I think so too. And it's so fun to just get back to that. Like, what am I bringing through? And social media is a really great way to reach people. It just, and people, deserve to hear from you. So I'm glad that you're getting on those platforms, and yeah, that this could be a way for us to even help people start to follow you more, so they'll be ready for your content.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. And I would love to do more of these conversations with you. So if you like this, then let's do more of this.
Let's do it anytime. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, so good. And so, yeah, I guess I'm sure we've taken up at least 30 minutes. Before we would close out, though, is there anything else that you want to say, just along the lines of, I guess, facing fear was our topic, but anything you want to say before we would close up more and have you give your information one more time?
With facing fear, there's something I like to say, and I don't practice it as much as I should have, because we're all flawed, we're all growing, but there's kind of, somebody said it somewhere along the line. I was like, I'm going to remember that. And it's like, if it scares you, do it twice. And it's very true, because once you face that fear, you just kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you say, I'm going to do it regardless. I'm just doing it. You feel so much better and so much more. There's just something within you that just is like, yes.
And then it does seem that when we're not facing it, that something within us feels the opposite, right? That we start to kind of feel like it brings us down.
It does
to
bring us
not
down.
Be, right? Which I'm speaking to myself.
If we don't face our fears, the negative self-talk, it just escalates. It escalates more and more, and that little voice in your head starts drawing at you. Yeah, you really can't do it. Yeah, you're not. Oh, they just reached out to you because there was nobody else. You're on the bottom list. Like it just starts that spiral.
Wow.
And, there's no need for that. Every one of us is unique, and we're here for a reason. Each of us.
And that's such a powerful awareness, though. I think you're so right that when we don't face a fear, like when we realize there's something we want to do or need to do, or however we're going to say it, and we don't, that really propels that negative self-talk and that momentum of darkness or whatever, those feelings that don't feel. So, wow, that is amazing to realize how important it is that we face it, not for another reason to do it, because if not, it actually is going to get us, right? Yes.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't face the ghost, it's going to chase you even more.
Exactly.
And I love that you ended with this facing of fear twice, because how we started with you talking about the two hurricanes you went through. So it's just like too perfect.
That's I didn't even realize that, but yes.
No, I just noticed that too. And it's so fun, by the way. Right now, you totally look like Maria, your cousin, which I love to remember that you guys are cousins, right? Or are you cousins with Vinny? With with
I'm
Vince?
cousins with Vance.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, you totally look like Maria right now. It's so fun. Like I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I can see their relation. I
So, you
think
know,
that
we're
you too.
we're cousins by marriage.
I know, right? But you have yeah, I know you guys have a great relationship.
Yes.
So well, gosh, I love this conversation. I feel transformed. I really do. Like these things really spoke to me, and I feel like I learned about fear. I really did. I learned some new things in this conversation. So I'm so thankful that you were open to the
Yeah,
adventure
absolutely.
of let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I think it would be good.
We always have to be open to the possibility of fill in the blank, whatever it may be. We always have to be open to that possibility. If not, we're
Mm,
just robbing ourselves of an experience.
mm. Well, I'm so excited to keep following you because I know I'm going to keep being inspired. So, yeah, will you one more time just share how people can follow you best and whatever platforms you want to mention and
Absolutely. I'm on
anything you want to
Facebook.
mention?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. It's Melissa Torrey Behrman. That's my last name. But if you search Melissa Torrey, you'll find me. Also Instagram at Melissa Torrey. And my website is melissatorreycoaching.com.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I look so forward to hearing more from you. And yeah, I'm thankful that you're making more space to, yeah, bring it through because I think the world totally does need you now. So thank you for being ready and inspiring me. I totally
Well,
appreciate
thank you. Thank you very much.
it. Okay, girl, have a great rest of the day over there
I
and
will.
we'll
You
be
do
in
the same.
touch.